Dale Calvert. I'd like to welcome you to this week's MLM Minute. I want to talk to you about a concept, but I call it the three-legged stool. Y'all seen the three-legged stool. It looks just like this, only it's got 3 legs instead of 4. Now, to become successful in this industry, you got to have 3 legs. There's not 3 organizations, but there's 3 factors. The number one factor is you have to develop the right skill sets. Most of the people go into the marketplace, they don't really learn any new skill sets, they're just kind of ignorance on fire, and sometimes when they're really excited they might get a few results, but eventually you have to learn the right skill sets to do this business. And it's simple, repetition is the key to learning, and you just do it over and over and over enough and you get it, and it's just as simple. The skill sets is not a difficult task if you have somebody that can teach you the right skill sets. Number 2 is the right mindset, and that's the hard part because we get so wrapped up in the emotions of who joins, who doesn't join. Somebody that joins gets started, they quit, and we get so frustrated sometimes. I know I have throughout the years until I finally learned anything anybody does is a bonus. The only person I can depend on and control their activity is the person staring me back in the mirror. If it is to be, it's up to me. I just have to do what I know I can do every day and then let everything else play out the way it's supposed to and not get too emotionally wrapped up in it. And so there's a lot of mindsets, and there's some people that can really help you there. Jim Rohn's got some awesome information, awesome material. We've got a program called Pure Motivation that really gets into the mindsets of what it takes to do this business. But the third factor that is really important and overlooked by people, and that's being in the right company at the right time in history. It's timing. You know, when I first got involved in this industry was in 1980, and I got involved with an awesome company, awesome product line, New York Stock Exchange company. They're still in business today. You know, 30 years later, they've done awesome. It was a great company. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with my first company, which most people do. And because of that, I missed A.L. Williams and I missed Herbalife. I should have jumped in both of those companies. I've talked about that with you guys before, but I missed it because I was so into my first company and so committed and dedicated to it. But the truth is, looking back, that company, their major growth was like from 75 to 1978, and I joined in 80. I missed the big push. My second company, I heard about 2 years before I got involved with it. I saw the presentation, it made total sense. I knew I could do it, but I had a lot of baggage because of the 5 years I'd spent with the other company, the previous company. And I just never wanted to have my income depend upon somebody else again and everything that all of us go through that have been down this road. And long story short, I got involved with it 2 years later, and I did awesome, went to the top in 18 months, strong 6-figure income, President's Advisory Council member, top 10% of income earners in the company. But the people that had joined the 2 years before me, who not worked any harder than I worked, were making millions of dollars, and I was doing well and was happy. And then 5 years later, I get involved with the company. In the very beginning, I'm the #1 distributor, and the timing was right, the product was right. It was new, it was a hot trend in weight loss, and I made millions of dollars. And my point was this: those first 5 years is when I developed the skill sets and the mindsets. I really didn't make very much money. I mean, I was able to leave my job at IBM after 5 years, but what I learned during that time, that was the education. That is where the skill sets and the mindsets came. So when I got involved with my second company and we went to the top in 18 months, it was because I had not the third leg of the stool totally, but the timing was much better with that company than it was my first company. My first company, the major growth was over, and it's a good solid company, and I could have stayed there and over time probably made 6 figures a year, and that wouldn't have been bad. But I'm saying you have to have the skill sets, the mindsets, and the timing. You have to be in the right company at the right time. So my first company, I developed the skill sets and the mindsets. And eventually, you have to stop, plant somewhere, and learn that. Eventually, you have to stop, plant, and learn the skill sets and the mindsets. And see, in today's market, what's happening in network marketing is people join a company, they're there for a couple of months, and they join the next deal, and the next deal, and the next deal, and the next deal, and they never stop and develop the skill sets and the mindsets. Because once you see, when I left my second company, my check was, the month before I left, was $23,000. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to quit, and I'm going to join this brand new company. And she said, you're absolutely nuts. She said, Dale, you've worked so hard, so long. We've got, a huge organization in 3 different countries. We make, $15,000 a month if you don't even walk outside the house. Why would you leave that? And I said, because if what I'm seeing is right, then this will set us up for the rest of our life. And if it doesn't work out, then I already have the skill sets and the mindsets, and I can go anywhere and find a product or a company that I believe in, and I'll build it wherever I go. So I'm not worried about that. And if I'm right, great. If I'm not right, then at least I tried. So $23,000, my first check with this new company was $683, and my second check was like $1,300. But by the end of the year, it was approaching $70,000. So again, thankfully I was right, and it worked out great. But my point is simply this, guys. Once you have the skill sets and the mindsets, and there's many of you, you have the skill sets and the mindsets, and you're looking at people that were there in the beginning at a different time and place, and you're thinking, well, I should be able to accomplish what they've accomplished because I've been there. And the reality, bottom line truth is, no, it was a different time and a different place. If you're with a company that you believe in and you like, awesome. Get the skill sets and the mindsets. Get that developed. Get that taken care of. Because eventually an opportunity will come where the timing is right, and you will be able to get involved in that, take your skill sets and your mindsets, and explode it. But don't think that it's going to happen just because you have one leg of the stool. Just because you're in the right place at the right time with the right company, you doesn't mean you're going to make it if you don't develop the skill sets and the mindsets. It's just not going to happen. I was looking at a picture. I was back in Kentucky at our office this week, and I was looking at a picture, and it was the company that I was able to make millions and millions of dollars. And it was our first ever event with that company, and there's about 90 people there. And there's a line, and I had this picture, and there's 17 people in that line. And they're all coming up to give a testimony on what the business meant to them at this event. And I looked, and I thought to myself, a year later, 16 of the 17 people were no longer in that business. The one that went on to make strong six-figure income, and I hadn't talked to him in probably several years, and I saw him in Orlando here about 4 or 5 months ago, and we had dinner, and the previous month with the company that he's with now, his income was over $60,000 for that month. It's just the way it is. And I know today people are trying to say, well, Dale, this is going to do that, and, learn how to, buy this course and learn how to sponsor for 30 people a day, every day, and all this garbage. Bottom line, you have to have all 3 legs of the stool. And if you think you're going to do it without all 3 legs, it ain't going to happen. This is Dale Calvert. We'll see you next week on the MLM Minute.